Folks, election season is upon us. Can you say, let's get ready to rumble? The time has come, okay? The election is just a mere 2 weeks away. Now, early voting has already started. I can tell you the lines here in Vegas and Nevada in general are insane from what I am hearing. I think this is going to be one of the biggest voter turnouts we've seen in quite a while. Let's just put it that way. I mean, it's insane, absolutely insane. And so being that it's election time, we got to talk about the stock market, okay? And what the heck is about to happen here. So the Dow today fell over 400 points. S&P 500 was down 1.63%. NASDAQ was down as well. And if we look at the markets recently, they haven't really been doing that much. They've kind of been in no man's land lately. Like, look at the NASDAQ. It's just kind of like floundering around, not really doing much, right? S&P 500 last couple months, pretty much the same exact situation, all right? So in this video here today, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, okay? First off, who's going to likely win the election? We got to talk about that, okay? Because if we talk about that, then we can figure out who the market's likely pricing in to win this election. Because remember, the market's always pricing in like certainties or, possible scenarios that are going to play out, okay? And so who is the stock market planning to win this election? What should you be doing to prepare for this whole situation? What stocks will drop if a certain person wins? And what stocks will likely rise if a certain candidate wins? We're going to get into all that in this video. This is the epic election video that so many of you guys have been requesting for me to do about like this election, how it's going to affect the stock market in general and particular stocks out there. We'll get into all that in this video. It's going to be a very in-depth video. So hope you guys enjoy this. As always, if you don't mind, smash the thumbs up. That helps the YouTube channel out in a massive way in the algorithm. I appreciate each and every one of you that are part of the thumbs up squad. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, got notifications on, things like that. Also, if you haven't gotten in our free stock market investing Discord chat, go ahead and do it. It's going to be linked in the description. I might even have it as the pinned comment down there. We are going to hit over 20,000 members in there this week. Absolutely insane. Alrighty, guys, let's start getting into this. First up, who's going to likely win this presidential election? And keep in mind what I'm about to show you, nothing is for sure, okay? So just because we might talk about, this person might win or that person might win, just keep in mind, nothing is for certain in this whole situation, alrighty? Alrighty, guys, so let's start looking at the polls, alright? So if we start looking at these polls, Biden's up huge, and I mean absolutely huge, and it doesn't matter what poll you look at. You can look at Fox News polls, CNN polls, it doesn't matter where you look at the polls, okay? The polls all have Biden up pretty huge, okay, by about 9.8 as of right now. Clinton at the same point was about 6.5. Now keep in mind, right before the election, what was that, I think it was like 10 days before the election, there was a whole relook into Clinton and the email situation. That hurt her really, really bad, in my opinion, and a lot of folks' opinion. So, does something like that come out about Biden right before the election or not? As of right now, Biden's up huge. There's no other way of putting it. Arizona, a lot of polls have Biden up 3+%. Florida, over 2. Georgia, 1. That's going to be really close. Georgia, okay? Iowa's, pretty dang close. Michigan, it actually has Biden up pretty big. Minnesota, Biden up really big. Nevada, Biden up pretty good size here. North Carolina is going to be another close one that's definitely within the margin of error. North Carolina, that should be crazy. Ohio has Trump up a little bit. Pennsylvania has Biden up pretty decent. Texas has Trump up right around 3. The strange thing about Texas is, if that's even like a question, that shouldn't even be a question. That should be Trump up huge in Texas. So we're going to see what the numbers end up shaking out in Texas, okay? Wisconsin has Biden up pretty big as well, okay? But then you're seeing headlines like this: Trump roars back in Florida, Biden gains in Georgia. And you're going to see some volatility like this, the polls going up and down and all around. Let's just put it that way, okay? But as of right now, Biden is definitely favored to win the election. I've seen almost every single prediction I've seen out there from any credible source out there, okay? Basically has, if you're putting odds on it, anywhere from Biden having about a 90% chance of winning to about a 70% chance of winning. So let's say 70% to 90%. Trump has about a 10% to 30% chance of winning this election. If you're just looking at the polls, all the data we're getting out of those polls and things like that, okay? However, this is something to remember, okay? For all the Trump folks out there, remember, the polls don't vote. And just because, Biden might be up huge, it doesn't mean you shouldn't go out there and vote. Because, hey, at the end of the day, remember, Clinton was up in the polls. And although Clinton won the popular vote, she still ended up losing the Electoral College. So Absolutely. Just because your candidate might be down the polls does not mean, they're not going to win the election. And for the Biden folks, you better not get complacent in this whole situation. Remember what happened, obviously, in 2016. I don't think the Democratic side will get complacent in this whole scenario. I think they're going to come out en masse and vote because they saw what happened in 16 when a lot of people took that election for granted. And they were like, oh, Clinton's going to win anyway. It's not even going to be close. And then all of a sudden, election night, people were in shock on election night because all the polls had Clinton winning. And a lot of people thought, oh yeah, she's just, and then a lot of people just didn't show up to the voting lines. I mean, if you saw the voter numbers for the last election, it was low, and I'm talking really low. I don't think that's going to happen, but at the same time, man, if you think Biden's just going to win this easy, just don't take anything for granted. That's all I'm going to say. And if you want, a certain candidate to win, you better go out there and vote for them. If I had to, let's say I was placing a bet for one of these candidates to win, which I cannot legally do that, but let's say it was legally allowed for me as a U.S. citizen living in Vegas to go, place a bet at a sports book, I would be putting my money at the Wynn Resorts, of course, and I'd be putting my money on Biden. I think Biden will win the presidential election. Time will tell, though, okay? And the market is pricing in of Biden victory already, okay? The market is pricing in a Biden victory. Remember, the market's always looking at what's going to probably happen. And what's going to probably happen is Joe Biden will be the president. And so the market's already pricing that in. And we can kind of tell that with how the market is acting, because look at the market. It's not really doing much, okay? Because the market kind of gets into this confused state. It's like, okay, what's Biden's approach to the market going to be? You can hear all these things on the campaign trail, and somebody can say, oh, we're going to do this or do that, but you don't really know what their approach is for sure until they actually get in office. So the market's a little confused about like what's the approach going to be, and also what are the policies that are actually going to go into place. Remember, candidates all the time, they talk about, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and a lot of it never gets done. But what's actually the 1, 2, 3 things that will actually get done? Or taxes on, let's say, wealthy individuals going to go up, and how much are they going to go up? Corporate taxes, as far as corporate tax rates, there's been talk about Biden basically going from 21% to 28%. So if that happens, obviously that's less money for the corporations. What happens in that scenario? So that's why I think we're getting the market into this area right now where it's in no man's land. It's not really doing much right now. It's just kind of, it was going up, it's going down, it's going sideways. Is no progress being made in the market last couple of months, okay? Now, look at this here. This shows you how the market has done under different presidential candidates. And what you're going to find is under most presidential candidates, where does the market go? Up, okay? Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it doesn't matter. Republican, Democrat, mostly the stock market is going up. I think this one's really, really key. This is so dang key. This slide here, okay? Why is this? This is showing you the incumbent party if they won, okay? So if Trump won versus if Trump lost, okay? And what you're going to see here, essentially, at the end of the day, is since Trump is in the incumbent party, like usually the market does really, really well going into that. If the market's pricing in, essentially, that let's say the incumbent will win, which is obviously Trump in this situation, right? So if you look at 6 months prior, 3 months prior, 1 month prior, usually the market's really, really good if the market's pricing in a Trump victory in the end, okay? Now, we've seen some weakness in the market, especially recently. Remember, we just looked at those charts the last 2 months. It's not looking that great as far as the market goes recently. And so if you're looking at something like that, you're kind of looking at a situation where the market's likely pricing in a Biden victory. Now, something to keep in mind is after the election, look at where the market usually goes, regardless if the incumbent party won or lost. Look where the market goes a day after, a week after, and a month after. Usually down, and sometimes even a year end, okay? So that is something to keep in mind there, that the market could very well go down regardless if Trump wins or Biden wins after the election. That's really, 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 really important. That's why I had to show you guys this. Really, really important, okay? And look at this here, okay? The stock market in an election year, which obviously we're in an election year, 2020, okay? It usually does really good. Look at Johnson versus Goldwater, market went up 16.5% that year. Nixon versus Humphrey, up 11%. Nixon versus McGovern, market up 19%. Carter versus Ford, market was up almost 24% that year. Look at this one, Reagan versus Carter, market was up over 32%. Reagan versus Mondale, man, Mondale, I don't even remember him, okay? Market was up 6%. Bush versus Dukakis, 6, the market was up almost 17%. Clinton versus Bush, up 7%. Clinton versus Dole, market was up 23%. Bush versus Gore, market went down 9%. That was coming off of the tech bubble. I think that's the main reason the market went down that year. If it hadn't been for the tech bubble, market probably would have been up that year as well, okay? 2004, Bush versus Kerry, market was up 11%. Obama versus McCain, market went down 37%. Obviously, that was in the middle of the Great Recession. Market finally bottomed, I think it was March 2009, okay? Obama versus Romney, market was up 16%, and Trump versus Clinton, market was up 12%. So usually on election year, the market does well, okay? The market does well. No other way of putting it, okay? And look at this. Look at the S&P 500 one-year rate of return, 12.9%. Oh, we're right in line with what is supposed to happen. Isn't that funny? But keep in mind, just because this year is fairly well doesn't mean that things are going to stay like this. Because remember, a day after, week after, month after, usually the market does not do well. So expect, if we're looking at the probabilities here, okay? If we're looking at probabilities, expect November and December will probably be bad for stocks. Keyword is probably. Once again, nothing's for sure. Every election's different. Every situation's different. But the market will probably be weak in November and December. Now, this could cause a big change in the market, though. Think about this, right? I mean, they're talking about a $2 trillion stimulus package coming sometime soon. So what if that happens? Does that change things? What if the stimulus package doesn't happen anytime soon and we get into January, February and we still don't have it? Does that mean the market goes down more? There's so many different variables in this whole election that you can't just say, well, because this has happened in the past means it'll happen again, okay? Here is my 2 cents on this whole scenario, okay? My 2 cents is this, okay? And then we're gonna get into the stocks, individual stocks that could do good or bad, depending upon like who gets voted in, okay? Something to keep in mind. I always tell you guys, always have your cash ready. Always have 10 to 30% of your wealth essentially in cash. Always ready to go. And in this situation, being that the market will probably go down in November and December, you gotta have some sort of cash ready, okay? 10% is kind of what you get down to when you're buying stocks like crazy and you feel like there's a million good deals out there. 30% is what you get up to when you feel like there are not that many good deals. And, you know, right now in the market, there are definitely some deals out there, but they're few and far between. I probably know of like 5 stocks right now that I really like and I really think are super attractive at the current prices. Maybe 10 stocks, 5 stocks is probably my safe bet, but that isn't a whole heck of a lot. There's been other times in the market when I look out there and I'm like, there's like 50, 100 stocks right now that are good deals, okay? Something to keep in mind. For me right now, personally, I'm at about 20% or a little over 20% cash right now, okay? It doesn't mean actual physical cash, it just means like money in different savings accounts, brokerage accounts, like just sitting around different places like that, checking accounts. I'm at around between 20 and 25% cash right now. I'm probably at maybe like 22, 23% to be exact as far as my cash levels at the moment. So I am fully ready that if we have some weakness in the market, I'm ready to take full advantage of that. I'm mostly invested in the stock market right now, but I have a good chunk of change just sitting on the sideline that I'm like, hey man, if this market wants to do what it usually does after a presidential election, which is go down, I am fully ready to take advantage of any deals out there it wants to give us over the next 3 to 6 months. And you got to make sure you're in a position where you got some cash that is ready to deploy in the market. Doesn't mean, well, the market will probably go down over the next couple months, so let me sell all my stocks and get out of the market. Absolutely not. It's usually a very poor decision. If you own truly great assets, which are, you know, great companies, great stocks, you shouldn't really sell out regardless if it's Biden or Trump. That's just flat out honest truth, because that's usually a poor decision. Remember, there was a lot of people that were selling out of their accounts left and right in March and April because, you know, oh my gosh, you know, the stock market's going to go, I don't know what they were planning on, zero. I held through. A lot of you guys held through. Obviously, you know, that was a lot better than selling out when the Dow was 18,000 or whatever it was. So you usually want to hold your great assets, but always have some cash ready to go. Alrighty guys, so let's start getting into this, okay? Now, what if Trump wins? So we know the market is likely pricing in a Biden victory. So the question is, if Trump wins, what stocks could have trouble, in my personal opinion, out there, okay? I think the first group I'd really worry about, if Trump wins, you know, which let's say there's a 10% to 30% probability Trump could win this election, I think Chinese stocks are going to be in real danger if Trump wins. And it doesn't mean like, oh, all the Chinese stocks are going to zero. No, absolutely not. But if I'm thinking about a group of stocks that will likely downtrend for days after, if not weeks after, if not months after, if not a year or two after, Chinese stocks absolutely fit that agenda, okay? Alibaba, look at Alibaba. It's just showed further and further strength throughout the summertime, from under $200 a share to now it's trading over $300 a share. I think Alibaba is pricing in a Biden victory. And if a Biden victory comes, likely U.S.-China relations will become a lot better. Let's put it that way. You know, Trump's really, gone after China, and China has really retaliated a lot, obviously, okay? But as the polls have shown, Biden is likely going to win. Guess what? Alibaba has continued to show strength and strength and strength. And so it's kind of pricing in that Biden's going to win. But if Trump wins, expect Alibaba stock to likely weaken, okay? NEO, that's another perfect example. Look at this stock. It's gone from $3 to $27. Remember, Trump and the Trump administration has talked about many times delisting these Chinese stocks, and that's a real big, huge risk that's out there, right? And so this is another stock that has showed continued strength, being that a lot of people are excited about the company, but also the fact that there's just a lot of people expect U.S.-China relations to get a lot better under a Biden presidency, okay? Baidu, look at Baidu. This one has been under $100 if you go back to May. Now it's like $130 a share. Look for that one to likely weaken. Tencent was, low 50s. Now it's low 70s. It's just showed continued strength and strength throughout the summer. And as we've gotten closer and closer to the election, a lot of people are pricing in that they believe Biden will win the election. Okay, so those Chinese stocks, I would definitely watch out for those. If Trump does win the election, I would look for all those stocks to pretty much weaken across the board if Trump wins the presidency, okay? Now, Caterpillar, this is another one. I could see that if Trump wins, I could see this one actually going down quite considerably, okay? Why Caterpillar? Well, I think one, a lot of people are pricing in better U.S.-China relations and the Chinese economy getting back on track more and more. And keep in mind, Caterpillar, their second biggest market for them is actually China. So being that their second biggest market is China, like U.S.-China relations are really, really important. Get the Chinese economy back up and running really strong again. Very, very important for Caterpillar. And so Caterpillars continue to climb more and more and more. And specifically, even though the market has continued to kind of be weak the last couple months, look at Caterpillar stock the last couple months. It's continued to go up and up and up because people are like, oh, things are going to get better between the U.S. and China. Chinese economy is going to come back stronger and stronger. And then also there's a lot of talk that if Biden gets in, there's going to be a huge infrastructure bill, right? And if the Democrats win a bunch more seats, a huge infrastructure bill coming. If a huge infrastructure bill comes in the U.S., I'm talking about specifically, guess who that's going to help massively? Caterpillar, okay? So it's another stock that if Trump wins, I expect Caterpillar stock to actually weaken. But if the stock weakens a bunch, that can also be a potential buying opportunity for somebody that might want to own a great asset like Caterpillar. Is an amazing company, a very good asset, okay? Good old Tesla, my Tesla stock. What about this one? So this is a stock I can definitely see weakening potentially if Trump is re-elected. I believe there's a lot of folks out there, especially on Wall Street, that believe if Biden becomes president and there's a Democratic presidency and administration, there's going to be a lot of laws and regulations put in to benefit EV companies, electric vehicle companies, such as Tesla, my Tesla. Now, Tesla, my Tesla, I don't care who's president. It could be Trump president, Biden president. It doesn't matter. Tesla's going to succeed in a massive way. However, if you want to put the stock on steroids, put in maybe a Democratic presidency and administration that will maybe put some things in place or push for a lot of different laws and regulations that will kind of favor things even more toward electric vehicles, sustainable energy, solar, wind, those sorts of things. All that benefits Tesla in a massive, massive way. And you look at something like this, right? They've done in California. California governor, this came out last month, okay? California governor signs order banning sales of new gasoline cars by 2035 in California. What if there was some sort of regulation or law that comes out over the next few years that becomes a blanket law across the entire United States of America, that 2035? And when you see things like this, Wall Street looks at this, fund managers look at this and they say, okay, gasoline cars banned, who else sells non-gasoline cars in volume? oh, there's one company in the world that does it. Their name is Tesla, and they're electric vehicles. Probably buy Tesla stock, right? It's as simple as that. So this is something to really, really keep in mind, okay? Now, the MJ stocks. Let's talk about the MJ stocks for a second, okay? If we're thinking about who's more likely to get federal legalization of the MJ space done, it would more than likely be a Joe Biden and Kamala Harris presidency, right? But at the same time, keep in mind, they're not even an automatic. It's not like Biden and Harris are out in front and being like, let's legalize MJ, you know. They're certainly not like that at all. But if you're thinking about who could be closer to that, it's definitely those two over Trump and Pence. I would say under Trump and Pence, there's probably less than a 1% probability federal legalization comes within the next 4 years, let's put it that way. Under a Biden and Harris presidency, I could see there probably being like a 30 to 40% chance of federal legalization coming in the next 4 years. Let's put it that way. So if there's a 30 to 40% probability versus a 1% or less probability, obviously the MJ stocks could benefit massive. I mean, if you had federal legalization be announced in the next year or two, this would be probably the biggest game changer for MJ stocks out there, because they could raise money so much easier. They could expand their businesses so much easier without so many laws and regulations that are in place right now and the confusing landscape in that market. So, I mean, literally, if all of a sudden tomorrow legalization happened, I'm telling you, these stocks would boom like we probably haven't seen them boom. If you think some of these stocks have gone up a lot right now, like just wait till federal legalization comes, because that would be massive, okay? Now, also, if Biden wins, right, which the market's already pricing in a Biden win, and I think that's why some of these stocks haven't been performing that well. There's a lot of talk that, oh my gosh, what if Biden closes down the economy again or limits the economy? And there's worries around that, right? Travel stocks. I think travel stocks will not do very well for the next, 3 to 12 months if Biden wins the presidency. I think they'll remain kind of in a lowish area. Let's just put it that way. Remember, these travel stocks have already been beaten down a lot. And if all of a sudden you close the economy again and there's worries, it doesn't even mean Biden has to close the economy. If there's just worries from Wall Street that Biden could close the economy again, that's going to cause the travel stocks to go down more, okay? Now, if you want to buy travel stocks, that's actually great news for you, okay? And I think that's one of the reasons why Wynn Resorts hasn't come back that strong, because I think there's definitely a lot of people worry about, what if travel gets shut down again in a major way, and Vegas has to close again, and Macau closes up more and more, and things like that. And so I think that's why a lot of these travel stocks have continued to be weak, including the airlines, okay? Commercial REITs, look for those stocks to likely decline for, at least a period of time if Biden wins. Remember, a lot of these REITs are dependent upon commercial space and getting, top dollar for that. And if all of a sudden a lot of these companies, especially small businesses, if they can't pay the bills, those REITs, man, good luck trying to make any money off of those, okay? And also, I think sit-down restaurants could be in real danger. I think names like Cheesecake Factory, I think names like Texas Roadhouse, Dave & Buster's, any of those type of places, I think could really struggle with their stock prices if Biden wins, just because of the fear about maybe Biden shuts things down again, okay? Look at the airline stocks. I did a video recently about the airline stocks, and these stocks are all trading really cheaply. A lot of them are still down 50% plus from where they were right before Roni, right? And man, those stocks could potentially get cheaper if Biden wins presidency, okay? So, it depends on if you want to buy those stocks or not buy those stocks, okay? But at the end of the day, don't forget this, guys. This is so dang massive. And all this worry about what if Trump's elected? What if Biden's elected? At the end of the day, don't forget this. Look at this chart here, okay? The market goes up, okay? Sometimes the market goes down. Most of the time, Democrat, Republican, whoever, the market goes up. And I always want you guys to remember that and not get lost in this. As long-term investors, you can't get lost in all these different things that are going on. You have to be ready for them. You have to have, plans in place that, well, if this happens, what am I going to do? But at the end of the day, the market goes up, and you have to be ready for that. And if you're not ready for that, then you're just kind of getting lost in this whole game, because it's all about being a long-term investor and buying great assets for as cheapest prices as possible. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. As always, if you don't mind, smash a thumbs up. Helps huge in the algorithm. I appreciate each and every one of you that are part of the Thumbs Up Squad. Also, if you want to check out our free stock hub, check it out. It'll probably be the pinned comment down there. It's also linked in the description. You can talk stocks with a ton of other investors, which makes me think we got earnings season going crazy over the next 3 3 to 4 weeks. So I hope you guys are ready for earnings season. This is going to be massive. I mean, like literally almost every single company that's an important company in the world is reporting their earnings in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So get fully ready for this. If you guys want to talk with other investors about that, make sure you get in Stock Hub. That's going to be the place. It's going to be, it's going to be epic in there during this earnings season. I can only imagine how crazy that chat is going to be when Tesla reports earnings, Tesla Day. The Tesla chat is going to be absolute nuts. Let's just put it that way, guys. So hope you're ready for everything. Hope you're pumped. Make sure you got some cash ready to go, and make sure you're ready to buy some stocks. All right. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.